Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast ITPersona. I'm very honored to have my friend and one of successful people in the IT industry, Craig Diablo.
So first off, congratulations to you launching this podcast. Super excited that I was able to be a part of this episode.
How was your first contact with IT?
I had a few computer classes, but it was, I remember our first programming language was Logo, where it was a little turtle on the screen that you would move around the place.
And when you started thinking about IT, did you have a dream company that you wanted to work for?
Yeah, so I didn't have a specific company in mind, but I was a little bit more focused on a sector. I was actually pretty focused on artificial intelligence.
To start in the market, I guess, was really hard.
So it was the cyber market was definitely a much smaller market and a smaller group of people that had cybersecurity skill sets. Think in the early 2000s it was MCSE certifications. Microsoft was kind of huge at that time.
Do you have like any mantra, like something that motivates you, like during your life, your day?
I probably so what comes to mind is probably about three phases, and I have a few more with these. The first one is family first. That has always been something that's been strong with me.
So take all the shots. Tequila shot.
Including tequila shots. I think just to kind of extrapolate on that too, right? As I've gotten older, I've realized that the shots that you don't take at some point in the future, you'll probably regret that.
Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast ITPersona. I'm very honored to have my friend and one of successful people in the IT industry, Craig Diablo. This person, hi Craig.
Hi, Sonia.
I'm going to tell a little bit about him. He's graduated from computer science and he studied an MBA with a concentration in cybersecurity in the University of Dallas. And also, he's very creative and innovative person. And during his life in his career, he started from scratch, like from zero, until becoming a vice president of companies that provide cybersecurity services. And now he's going to be open to share his experiences in the challenging IT field and as well about his personal life. And he's going to give us some advice for the people who are starting in this IT field. This conversation will be a little bit technical, but it's more focused on getting to know about the person. It is about what is behind the wall, who is the silent hero, and how he's now helping the organizations become profitable and to create happier customers using AI. So, welcome to Craig Diablo, and thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Sonia. That was an amazing introduction. So first off, congratulations to you launching this podcast. Super excited that I was able to be a part of this episode, and I'm looking forward to kind of seeing the new episodes that come out as well, and all the interesting personalities that you have. But thank you for having me on the show, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, you will be as famous as Steve Jobs and Steve and Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, and all these people that I know that you will be, because now you are that person who goes and pursues his dreams. Craig, I'm really sure that you will be successful in the future exactly as you are now. Craig,
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This is my first podcast, and I guess I will have more to improve. But today, I guess we are doing really good. Okay. We can start now with the first section about your background, right? Okay. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your name, your origins, and if you were born in US or in another country, or if you have a story where we can start with?
Yeah, absolutely. So Craig Diabra. I am the CEO and founder of Sentilyx AI. That's one of my latest ventures that I just kicked off a few months ago. But just kind of get into my background. I grew up in Mumbai, India, and actually led a pretty interesting childhood since my father was a captain on the oil tankers that sailed around the world, and so I got a chance to explore and visit many countries when I was little. However, once I got to the second grade, the school was like, you got to stay in school and you cannot sail for 6, 7 months at a time. But had a very interesting childhood. Visit a lot of places. I still love to travel. And to be honest, my interest, didn't really start in IT from a career perspective. I wanted to be a captain. I wanted to be a captain like my father, and I was starting to study for it and so forth. But as some of you may know, the life of a sailor is pretty hard. You're away from your family for 8, 9 months at a time. My dad would come home for Christmas, maybe my birthdays. It was a hard life, and so I wanted to do something different. And he also encouraged me to do something different. And I had a love for computers, and so I started looking more towards the computer field. But humble beginnings. Did not start in the IT, so I came from a shipping background.
Oh, very interesting. When you were in the school, the elementary school, when you were in India, did you have a special IT course or program like programming or coding? Or how was your first contact with IT?
So we had a few computer classes. But it was, I remember our first programming language was Logo, where it was a little turtle on the screen that you would move around the place. So we did some of that and a little bit of word processing, but it wasn't a ton of exposures to computers. I think it was more of a personal exposure when our family got our first Windows 95 computer, when I really started getting more on the internet and exploring the internet back in the late 90s. But a little bit in school, but really more personal inquisitivity, creativity to go
Okay,
explore more.
that's good because most of the people, the kids, they wanted to be a doctor, they wanted to be teachers or astronauts. It didn't cross your mind?
I wanted to be a captain. I wanted to be a captain.
Oh, the first thing that you wanted to be was captain.
A captain, absolutely. And I love the sea. I love sailing. I love traveling. That was my first career path.
Of course, you know how to swim. Swim.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. That's surprising to know. Most of the people thought about something else, but you were very focused and decided to start in the sea, not in IT. And I remember that at that time, almost no one had personal computers. So it was really hard for someone to start with computers. They were very expensive. Not all the people can afford computers. I remember that the library they used to have computers to look for the books or to get some information to do some research using databases for medical or some other subject. They were hardly available for everyone. So that was really good that you had that chance. Thank you for sharing. And when you started thinking about IT, what age were you? Around 10 or 12?
So no, that's probably about 15, 16, I would say, is really when I started getting more into computers.
For me, in my case, was when I was in high school. And I started with basic. Basic is before logo. So basic, you have to program using your operating system and then do
Yep.
everything. Yeah, I started with that software. At the beginning, I wanted to be fashion designer. Imagine going from fashion
Fashion to
designer
IT.
to IT. You're welcome. But I really love it. That's why I changed my mind.
Right now, I'm still looking to get a boat, so I still want to be a captain of my own boat at some point, but it will happen.
Do you know how to sail a boat?
I've taken a few classes. Yeah, I've taken a few classes.
Whoa, that's amazing. And when you started thinking about IT, did you have a dream company that you wanted to work for? For instance, IBM or some other big companies? Did you have a company in mind?
Yeah, so I didn't have a specific company in mind, but I was a little bit more focused on a sector. So back when I went to college, and this was in the United States, I came from India to the U.S. when I was 17 years old to go to start my undergrad degree. I was actually pretty focused on artificial intelligence at the time. So I had heard about robotics, I had heard about AI, it had interested me, quite a bit. And so my degree in college was actually computer science. But when I started off, I was taking a bunch of computer science and psychology classes to be able to kind of bridge that, AI type perspective. But I soon found out that AI was, more towards MIT. There was a lot of R&D that was going on. It really wasn't mainstream. It wasn't something that everybody was using, right? And so I wanted to be more in the business to business world, being able to solve consumer problems, not so much in the R&D and the academic, side of things, which AI was back in the early, 2000s. So it wasn't company specific. It was a little bit more, I want to work in AI. But I soon changed that path and kind of got more towards networking and cybersecurity. Because if you remember back in the early 2000s is when wireless technology came about, and started playing with 802.11b, the big cards that you would put into your laptop to get wireless signal on the access points with and so forth. And so I started playing with that technology and started realizing that there was a lot of vulnerabilities and a lot of security implications with wireless technology. So that's kind of what got me more and more interested into cyber and started really focusing my studying path as well as my learning path towards cybersecurity.
Yeah, I remember around 10 or 12 years ago, something that the companies they didn't know that it was a need, they didn't want to invest in cybersecurity. But when the hacking really started, they began realizing that the data, the information was a valuable asset for them. So they just are like, oh, okay, let me get that thing. Before, they were not really aware about the importance of the cybersecurity. And to start in the market, I guess was really hard at beginning.
So it was the cyber market was definitely a much smaller market and a smaller group of people that had cybersecurity skill sets. Think in the early 2000s it was MCSE certifications. Microsoft was kind of huge at that time. A lot of networking, Cisco type stuff, and most of the IT professionals were focused in that area, being network administrators, IT administrators, programmers, and so forth, right? But there was a very, very small niche. And that's kind of what interested me about security was that it was tiny, it was very specialized, it required a lot of out of the box thinking, and that's the thing where I sort of match my personality. I like to explore things. I like to, hey, think 2-3 steps ahead. What would be the implications if this and this occurred? And that's exactly the type of mindset you need from a cyber perspective. And I saw a growing market as well. So funny story, when I was applying for cybersecurity, to cybersecurity companies, when I was still in college, I did a search across the United States for every single cybersecurity company that I could find. And I just went ahead and applied sent my resume, sent my projects. I didn't even care if they had opportunities or not, or they had job offerings. I just sent out, hey, I'm a kid that's, just graduated, super interested in cyber. Here's my senior project. And to be honest with you, the job that I landed, my first cyber job, didn't even have an opening out there, but the CEO, saw this kid that had a bunch of drive and motivation, and that's how I got that first position.
Was really good. When you have someone that see that like in your face, like that passion that says I want it and I don't care about what I have to do. Yeah, it's good when someone gives you that opportunity and you find the right person for your development. That's really good. Yeah. But you look for
Absolutely.
that.
I did. I look for it.
And for instance, when you were in the university or in your life, do you have any mentor or person that you said, I wanted to be like that because he has something that I can learn from him or from her?
Sure. I think it probably started with my parents, right? From a personal personal perspective, I saw how hardworking my family was. My dad, my mom, they were very family oriented, and they would do everything for it, right? So there was a lot of drive from that. On the professional side of things, I was fortunate enough to interface with quite a few CEOs out there who were my direct mentors. Not only did they hire me, but they kind of gave me the autonomy to go build and create things. So the first job, as I mentioned, I was an analyst for a while, but quickly moved up to a manager and a VP, and was able to create new things for the organization. But I was given that opportunity, by the CEOs to go build something. The second CEO too. So we actually sold our business to another company, and I worked for that new CEO, it was be bold, be strong, don't be afraid to make mistakes, as long as it's not costly, but be creative. And that was the kind of mentorship and guidance. So I would say family, as well as the few CEOs that I work for, have had tremendous impacts in my life.
The last question I forgot is, do you have an idol like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or some
Yeah, you actually said that. So I'm a huge Apple fan, and Steve Jobs, the CEO of Apple, was definitely a huge idol for me too. But not only just Steve Jobs, but also Steve Wozniak. And you just mentioned it earlier, right? Where it's both the business as well as the technology side of things. So I love technology, and I kind of grew up in the technology world. But as my career progressed, I realized how important it is to have that business mindset to apply those technologies to get greater value. So Jobs, as well as Wozniak, have been huge idols to me. And even from a personal perspective, my son's middle name is actually Steve, because it represents Jobs and it actually represents Wozniak. So it's a common name, but his middle name is Steve.
Was really good. Yeah. Yeah, because as I said before, like, this podcast is to talk about more about the person, but you have like both sides. In like, to grow in this business, you have to know like the technical side, and you have to know about how to talk about with the business person. Did you find some like challenges to be an immigrant when you moved to US, or do you think that was an advantage to be an immigrant in US and to get more possibilities, opportunities for you?
Sure. I think it's a combination of both, right? So absolutely, there were some challenges. So whenever you come to the United States as a student or an immigrant from another country, especially from a student perspective, right? You have to stay in your swim lane. You can work for different companies and things like that. You have to apply for work permits and so forth. So there's a little bit more administrative things that happen. And then also when you graduate with your degree, if you want to look for a company, they have to be able to sponsor you. So you kind of have this challenge where, most kids that are coming out of university they don't have a lot of experience, but they got to find a job, which is hard enough. You don't have a lot of experience as an immigrant, you got to find a job, but then you also have to find a company that is going to be able to sponsor you, right, for an H1 visa or different kinds of work visas so that you're legal over here. And then let's say you go ahead and get that, go through all the administrative work to get that done, find a company. You then have to only be able to work for that company. You can't just change your job the next day. It's not very easy, right? So you got to make sure that you're driven, you're giving everything you can, so that that organization is going to see your value and kind of keep you around too, because otherwise you're probably going to go back to your home country. But from an advantage perspective, I think it has more drive, right? There's more innovation, where you can't if you fail or you don't do things, you can't just go home to mom and dad's house on the weekend, right? Your 12, 24-hour flights away. You have to make it work no matter what. You have to figure out a way, right? And so I think that gives us an extra drive and extra push. And if you think about America, right, it's a land of immigrants. From the very founding thing. So everybody is in some form or fashion, an immigrant from somewhere, right? But I think in today's world, it does give you a more of a push to be your best self and give as much as you can.
And also, as you said, because you have to make it work, you don't have the choice to go back. So, and you have to show them the employers like, I'm the one because I have something. like the others they don't have. Like I left my family, I left everything in my hometown, and I had to make it work because I'm investing money, investing time, and learning maybe a new language and making new connections. This is a really hard work, but it's like, I guess, for us, in your case, because you are the case, you are the successful people. you are the that made you like to not to survive but to succeed in that field.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It's an advantage.
It is.
Yeah.
With some challenges behind it.
Yes, I know. Okay, it was really good and interesting about more about that aspects in your life. Maybe we can move to, as you said, the life balance. When you get up, do you have a specific routine besides going to get your coffee? Or what do you do when you get up?
It depends. We got to drop off the kid to school that day or not. But in general, I do like kind of reserving the first hour of the day, kind of working hour of the day. Being able to kind of respond and check emails from the previous day or task or whatnot. So I actually block off very specific times on my calendar, like an hour to just dedicate to certain things. And I found that that's been kind of successful for me. Too often we get bombarded by a ton of meetings after meetings, and especially after COVID, I think the meetings have just gone up, right? Because people are, it's so easy right now to be able to set up a Zoom, and it's just back to back stuff, right? So I actually would set up certain areas of my calendar where I would just block things off to kind of have a little bit critical thinking, whether it's not working in the business, which is some of the cases, but working on the business from an overall perspective and overall strategic things. Also do these things called Learning Fridays, where I'll block off 3 or 4 hours on a Friday just to go learn something new. And it's kind of free form. Keep up with trends in the industry. Go read a bunch of articles that have popped up on my feed that I haven't got a chance to. So that's kind of my routine. Probably one of the important things too, which I've learned over my career, is do the hard things or the hard tasks for the day earlier on in the day. Once you get those things out of your mind and it's taken care of, the day tends to, to kind of flow a lot more smoothly. I've definitely learned that over time, because when they pile up and they get to the end of the day, that's when you get frustrated. That's when it affects your work-life balance, family balance, and so forth. So knock that out, at the beginning of the day if you can.
Do you get up early, or it's like around, because most of the people, they get up at 5 a.m. and they work out and run and they came back. Are you an early person or not like that?
Absolutely not. I'm not an early person. I'm definitely more of a late night person. I think my creativity comes out a lot more at nighttime, I'm definitely more active at night. I can stay up later and brainstorm and things like that, but I'm definitely more of a night owl.
It's more quiet. Like I don't know if it's about the light. Is like you are like in the computer or reading or doing something, like you are really doing that thing, not thinking about anything else. So we have a different schedule, our body. I don't know why I wanted to get up early. It's like, oh, I'm tired. Just 30 minutes more. Yeah, but it's a kind of like personality, I guess, for the IT people.
Yeah, I think that developed for me in college as well, right? So as a computer science, degree, you're kind of last minute sometimes with your projects, and so night or two before it's due, you're pretty much sitting, all night long in the computer lab trying to knock your things out. So it probably has developed a little bit of that for me as well.
Do you have like any mantra, like something that motivates you, like during your life, your day?
I probably just, so what comes to mind is probably about three phases, and I have a few more, but these are three important ones. So which I not only just use internally, but also to my teams and employees and so forth. So the first one is family first. That has always been something that's been strong with me. So even in a work setting, whatever happens, work can wait. Family cannot, right? Especially for emergency type situations. So go take care, whatever you guys, or gals need to do from a family perspective. Family is always first. Second, probably mantra is work smarter. not harder. Is being, and I think I developed that from the computer science, automation, AI type perspective as well. How can you, and it's not that hard work is bad. It's about, if it's repetitive, how can you be smarter to accomplish a specific task? And then probably the third mantra that I look at always is you miss every shot that you don't take. And so it's more from an opportunity perspective, right? You may not, sometimes we get lazy or scared of specific opportunities, but you may not know what that may lead to. And so, I've been, and some of these phrases have come up from people that I've, admired and looked to and shared, perspectives with over time. But those are probably the three ones that come to my mind. Family first, work smarter, not harder, and you miss every shot that you don't take.
I agree with all of them. But about business and about our professional growth, if you don't take that chances, it's like maybe that thing that you didn't do could take you to another like a really successful adventure. Like yeah, and sometimes because you said no, I'll do it tomorrow.
Right.
No, I leave it for that day. Or this is not perfect. I'm not ready yet. Sometimes you are not. Most of the time, you are not completely ready. So take all the shots is the best.
Right.
Tequila shots.
There you go.
Tequila shots.
Including tequila shots. I think just to kind of extrapolate on that too, right? As I've gotten older, I've realized that, the shots that you don't take at some point in the future, you'll probably regret that, especially as you get older and kind of, what would happen if I didn't take that or whatnot? So to avoid that regret, try it, essentially, right?
Yeah.
You may fail, you may not succeed, but at least you tried it and you will not have the regret that you didn't take that shot.
Yeah, and maybe the result, it was not like a you thought that was, like maybe it was not very successful result, but you learned something from that.
Absolutely. You learn something from that experience.
Yes.
Experiences. Absolutely.
Yeah. And now about the people that is starting in the IT field, some of the problems, or not the problems, is like they don't want to make teamwork. For instance, right. I don't know if you have the chance to be like a professor or a presenter to some students in the college or something like that.
Yeah, so actually, I wasn't a professor, like an adjunct professor or full-time professor, but I have been invited to speak at guest lectures at a few universities. And I also would do a lot of conference speaking, so public conference speaking to professionals, and some of them would, kind of include students on cyber and so forth. So yeah, a little bit of experience around that. And you're absolutely right that I think from, because I've been we were in the same class, a couple of classes, and there were team projects where, we knew that there was one or two people doing 70-80%, of the projects out there. There is absolutely a lot of things to learn from teamwork. And I'll say this I met a lot of people, individuals who do phenomenal work by themselves, and it's great, and they are successful. But if you look at the majority of workplaces, of organizations, they absolutely require teamwork, right? And teamwork, I think, helps develop a ton of real-world skills. There's collaboration skills, there's conflict resolution skills, there's working together with other people, taking other perspectives, into consideration. A lot of times we may think we know a specific answer, but there's a better way to do it, a smarter way to do it, a quicker way to do things, right? That a lot of times gets lost when you miss out on the team. So, while we've seen there, I think you got to embrace that. If you even look at the word team, TEAM, there is no I in the word team, right? It is a combination type thing. So, yeah. So I absolutely encourage people to do that, because when you get to the real world, it absolutely will be applicable, and it opens you up to so much more possibilities. And my second point on that too is going back to the family side of things, right? When you think about family, it is about a team. You have different skill sets, you have different ways of contributing to a family that makes a family successful, and it's only going to be successful, and so being able to take your professional, team capabilities and apply that to your personal lives is going to make you successful on, all kinds of boundaries.
Yeah, in the family, in in the office, we have different roles to play. Yeah, and sometimes we cannot choose the people in your team. So
Right.
yeah, in the organizations, in the company, is not individual work. If you
Sure.
want to be like individual, maybe you can like just programming and coding with your headphones,
Right.
and that's it,
Sure.
and just receive instructions or directions.
Even your example of a programmer, right? Your code that you develop individually is actually part of a bigger system that other people are contributing to, right? So there's QA folk, there's vision around it, there's actual implementation. So you still have to work in a team as well. So might as well, just embrace that. And lots of successful, and even like sports personalities, you may think of like a Formula One race car driver, right? This person is number one in the world. But there's a huge team behind it, right? That builds the cars, that changes the tires, does the pit stop, the coaches, all of these things, make up that individual, even though it's a brand, but there's so much more a team behind almost everything, whether you're a tennis player, you're a sports icon, whatever that may be.
Yeah, sometimes for the IT people, they said that we are the backbone of the organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we are the backbone, but we are also like in parallel, like because most of them they said that the people that make decisions, they are the head of the organizations. Right. Yeah,
Right.
but we also have heads. Yeah, and we can be the backbone, but we can work in parallel with them.
Here's something I learned in the business world too, right? When you're typically IT or operational or whatnot, there is not a lot of respect for the sales organization side of things, right? It's like these guys are just selling stuff that we don't even do. But if you look at the holistic picture out there, right, the sales team cannot work without you, and you cannot work with the sales team if the sales teams are not there selling. Who's going to pay for your salaries and so forth, right? And if you don't build something, what is the sales team going to sell? So there's this cycle of dependency between, and that's basically down to teamwork among the organization. No matter how big you are, whether you're Microsoft, you're Apple, you're Google, or you're a tiny 2 or 3 person company, it takes teamwork to work together.
Even your body, your cells, they work together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
They are a team. It's a system.
Ecosystem. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. What else? What would you recommend to that people that is just studying or is going to leave the schools about to keep improving themselves, like the self education or some training or certifications? What would you recommend for them, and what do you think that is important?
Yeah, sure. So there's a host of different things, right? So education is the number one, and it comes in different forms. It could come in formal education, like a bachelor's or a master's, degree. It comes in taking courses online in a specific, area. Certifications, as you mentioned. The one thing I like about certifications these days is that it actually, once you finish your certificate, you study for it, you finish the certification, they require you to keep up with it. Like, for example, they have continuing learning credits or CPEs, practicing credits or whatnot, where you have to do certain things in that industry or that certification to be able to keep that certification valid, right? And there are things like attending conferences, reading articles in magazines to get those type of credits, attending trade shows, attending something I've seen lately, which has been pretty successful, is meeting groups, right? So you have these local meeting groups in a specific area. So if you're database driven, they have database type meetups. If you're starting a business, there's entrepreneurial meetups, there's programming meetups, there's artificial intelligence meetups, there's all these things that are going on. And after COVID, we've seen a lot of them go virtual as well. So you could join a meetup in any part of the world at this point. It is just huge. And that gives you exposure to networking, exposure to R&D or certain type of research that's going on in specific areas that you may have interest on. But I would say those are probably the big ones: conferences, trade shows, meetups, certifications, formal education. There's so much of free courses out there, Coursera, Google Learning. These are the type of things that you should absolutely take on. I was in a position where I hired a lot of people, and so I interviewed a ton of people over my career, and a lot of them have degrees, a lot of them have certifications, and from my perspective, the one thing that probably makes you stand out if you have a bunch of people that have similar certifications or so forth is how you apply that personally, right? So being able to, like, for example, setting up your own lab environment to do a creative project and kind of generate some results and be able to show what that looks like, to a potential recruiter is going to put you above and beyond all the 200 people that have the same certification or the same degree that you have. How are you applying what you've learned in your own environment? Is huge, and some of the best hires. In fact, one of the best hires I did several years ago. He didn't have any corporate experience, but he was playing around with penetration testing, doing a ton of stuff in his own time. And he's turned out to be one of the most successful people I know. He started up about 3 companies, has already sold them, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. But came from very humble beginnings.
And when you were start in the IT, did you work when you start when you were studying, or you work when you finish your studies?
So I worked part-time. So my bachelor's degree, I was working part-time in a IT department, setting up computers, doing some network administration for them. What another piece of advice that I have for students is that if you're going to pursue your master's degree, especially in more of a business field like at the MBA or something, take a break between your bachelor's and your master's. Go get some real world experience out there. What I've seen personally is that the students who had some experience, some real world experience, and then went and did their MBA got a lot more things out of their master's degree. They understood what's going on out there from a management and business world, and they could ask the right questions. When you go directly from your undergrad degree straight to your master's degree, it's almost like you're just trying to get a piece of paper and get a few things done. But the students that had the real experience were asking better questions. They were getting a lot more from it because they could take what they were working with and applying it to the actual class, and taking the class and applying it back to their work environment. So I did a combination of both. Especially during my master's, I was working full time and taking the evening classes 3 days a week, and then on Saturdays and sometimes on Sundays too. You remember going to UD? Yep, from pretty much 10 till 6, but it was great. It was hard work. Took me a little bit longer because I was working full time, but absolutely appreciated the fact that I did have work experience and I got a lot more out of the classes.
I guess it's a good advice, like to start working or doing practices or something like the companies call internships, something like that.
Internships, yep.
Yes, and they can start from there. For the students, what will be like the tech trends that you visualize in the IT?
Oh, so that's a good question. There's so many cool things that are going on right now. All right, I'll try to give you 5 or 6 trends that I'm really seeing right now. So first one, as you mentioned, is AI and ML, right? I think we are at the very initial start of really seeing mainstream artificial intelligence and machine learning. So the algorithms, some of the compute power has been around for a while, but we're at a point right now where it is being adopted or seriously considered by a lot of organizations out there. We're seeing compute powers start to drop. We're seeing newer models and research over the last 5 to 10 years really come to life. I think over the last year and a half, especially with the onset of ChatGPT coming out, the world has really started to embrace large language models and so forth. So that's definitely huge over the next 10 to 15 years. That's the reason I decided to jump in. I had an interest before and figured now is a perfect time to get in and help organizations. The second one is IoT. We're seeing more and more devices come out and everywhere, right? From cities to houses to all aspects of life, and all of these devices basically have IP addresses, they generate data, they generate analytics, sensors, and so forth in pretty much everything, right? So IoT is going to be a huge trend. Cloud computing, we've seen that trend go up over time too. Before, most organizations would have large data centers or internal data centers, and they're starting to see that the cost of that is pretty high. So moving all of those workloads to a cloud like Amazon Web Services or Azure, is the trend, and we're going to see more and more over time as well. Not to say that data centers are going down, because you're starting to see the data centers start to come up a lot more based on the need for AI compute technology. So, for example, here in Texas, because the power has a really good grid over here in Texas, and you're seeing data centers come up and a lot of funding going into that specific area. Probably the last 2 or 3 are blockchain technology, right? So I think over the last 10 years or so, blockchain has mainly been around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, but there's a ton of different applications in finance and healthcare, voting systems, and all of that for blockchain technology going forward. So I see, a huge an area of opportunity in that space. Probably the last 2 are 5G and edge compute. So think about it, everything needs to be connected, and you basically need a network for that to connect, right? Wireless, LEO, which is, LEO systems, low Earth orbiting systems like Starlink satellites and so forth. Connectivity is going to be huge, and edge compute as well, because you want to process things faster at the edge to make things more accessible for your users or your services. And probably the last big trend I would think about is quantum computing. So while we're very, very early right now in quantum computing, I think that's going to revolutionize the way AI and a lot of these other compute technologies, the cost of it, but also just the speed of it as well. And it's just going to be a hockey stick effort over time. So those are the trends that I see huge. I know the last one, which encompasses all of these, is cybersecurity, just because cybersecurity has an impact on pretty much every single one of these things at this point. Yeah, so that's my analysis on trends.
Yeah. Okay, listen and get ready. Do research if you don't know about some of the topics, but that will be like the trends from here to 10 years, I guess, the development about this technology.
Yeah. Do you have any trends from your perspective you think that I'm missing out on, or you would like to add?